Jesus.
Well, I was obviously hoping that England would win because I had them in the sweepstakes. That was not rigged at all.
Not rigged
yeah.
at all.
For those
It
who
feels
missed
like
the
what.
sweepstake, Bucky's and I did the draw, and both our teams made it to the final. So there's a bit of an inquiry going on about that.
This inquiry's going to go as long as the fucking inquiry is going to take to arrest those 12 names that the government has.
I was still when Wally drew out Czech Republic, I just pretty much knew that I'm just giving away $100 at the moment. I just figured like I've just lost $100 not even trying.
Well, that's what I thought when I drew England, and it didn't turn out. Well, it almost turned out okay for me. The only thing I had to deal with was the embarrassment throughout the tournament of supporting England.
Well, don't worry, you had cooks in your corner, so it was okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I made a post or mentioned that I want England to win, I had to mention it's only because I've got money in the game.
But gentlemen, there's a lot
otherwise,
happening in the world right now.
So what is that, Geeks?
There's a lot happening in the world right now.
Yeah, no, look, it's chaos. Sport-wise as well, we've been blessed. Otherwise, Geeks, how are you doing, bro? You were overseas. You went to Italy.
Yeah, I had a bit of a 2-week break in Italy, which was fantastic. I was there for the semi-finals and the final, which was quite incredible. Some crazy fucking scenes the evening of the final once the last penalty went in. I don't think I've inhaled so much smoke in my life. There was smoke grenades fucking everywhere. There was fireworks everywhere. There was red flares everywhere.
It felt a little bit like home with all those smoke grenades.
It did feel a little bit at home. The only difference is they weren't trying to disperse the crowd with the smoke grenade. They were actually just celebrating something. So, which was quite incredible. It is amazing to be part of something like that and sort of just witness it. I think the fireworks went on to about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. The fireworks were still going off around certain cities. So it was really like an incredible thing to witness.
Yeah, very lucky. Great timing on your part to be there at that time, man.
Yeah, listen, I jumped on that Italian bandwagon when they drew when it was them and Belgium in the quarters. It was the night before I was leaving to Italy. So I was like, I'm either rocking up to a very happy Italy or a very goddamn sad time. And when they got past Belgium, which I thought they would, then I thought, okay, well, anything can happen now here.
Yeah. And you, Cooks, you've been up and down as well. Been to Joburg a couple of times, and you're moving there now, right?
Obviously sorting things out for the move, and spending a lot of time in and trying to adjust to altitude. I mean, that's probably been the biggest reason I have to fly all the time. But yeah, traveling quite a bit. Obviously missed being on the show, which has been great to be back. I mean, can't wait to get stuck into the sport that's been happening this weekend. I mean, and just for the viewers there, I'm not wearing red because the Lions won. This happens to be, I've just come back from finish work, so I didn't have time to take my red top off.
Don't worry, we won't be stupid enough to get a Lions fan on here for the next couple of weeks. I think we've all seen and heard enough of them on Twitter, on the Twitter streets the last couple of weeks.
Oh, definitely. And they've been getting stuck in today as well. They've been getting proper stuck in.
They have been getting stuck in today, but we've got this guy called Rassi Erasmus that's just keeping everyone calm on the Twitter streets, keeping them guessing.
Dropping
even Johan Yaku.
Oh, sorry, Johan Yaku, not Rassi. Sorry. I got the burner account. I got the burner account wrong.
So I was going to leave that for a little bit later, but we might as well get into it while we're here.
I think we waited. We leave it a little bit. Let's hop onto the hockey first. Let's go to the Olympics quickly.
Let's I think there's
Olympics not going to last too long because there's not too many South Africans really taking the Olympics by storm right now.
Yeah.
Yes, I stayed awake till 1:30 this morning, hoping Henry Schumann would actually give us a medal in the triathlon, and then he pulled out with probably like a kilometer or two to go in the run.
Yeah, that's unlucky. Yeah. What happened? Was he just injured?
Didn't really. I must say they didn't really say what it was, but I'm going to presume that it's an injury that forced him to pull out. I mean, he made it to the run, and he made the first 2 laps. I think it's 5 laps they had to run of the course, and he made it to lap 3. Actually, I think that's where, and then he retired. So he had 2 more laps to go.
How was he positioned at the time?
He was about 8th. So, like in the top 10, and the gap, the top, I think there were 5 guys, probably just 1 or 2 seconds in like a head peloton. But when you can see the group right in front of you, so it's not, it wasn't too out of touch. But yeah, he pulled out. So that was a bit disappointing. I was like, why the hell? I should have just gone to sleep and woken up at 3 o'clock to watch the Blitzboks play. I just think Wally went, but
yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Well, they've at least.
Sorry, you froze a little bit for me.
We're back. The Blitzboks, I see the Blitzboks have been doing well. 2 out of 2 for them.
Yeah, they started very nicely.
They got a bit close against Kenya.
Yeah, they did. But I must say though, especially having watched the Sevens Olympics today, I think I do think the Blitzboks, obviously, they're among the favorites there. I mean, they're one of our best chances to bring back gold medal. I don't think the gap between the top sides is very big at the moment. I mean, Fiji hasn't looked convincing yet. I mean, the All Blacks, they got past Argentina, but they also seem to struggle. I do think, obviously, the fact that most of these sides have not had that the series was, they haven't played in that 7 series for so long, especially when the Blitzboks obviously haven't had the preparation they've wanted to. But I mean, obviously, it's always tough against Kenya, but I do think that they're a massive, massive gold hopeful. I mean, they're one of the few South African, sides that actually are going in there as one of the favorites. So I really hope that they can bring back the gold.
We've got Tatiana in the swimming.
Yeah, tomorrow morning, 4:17.
Tomorrow morning. Yeah, she's looking good. I mean, that was a hell of a swim to break that Olympic record, and she looked pretty comfortable in it as well, I must say.
So she even said that she wasn't expecting that, and that she was actually expecting to do better in the 200 meters.
Yeah, I think that's her event. The 200 is a number 1 event. So, if we can leave there, double gold, Penny Haynes flashbacks coming back. So I mean, that would be.
And I actually see Penny's there. Penny's actually in Japan.
Yeah,
she's doing some work for some broadcast agency over there. So that'd be quite a cool little thing there.
And it's almost like it's meant to be.
Yeah. Chad looked a little. Chad, I think they were calling him Chad LeClose this morning. He was looking a little dicey, a little shaky.
Bum time there for Chad.
Yeah. Geez, what else have we had?
Obviously, the big one was the hockey yesterday with the South African men almost doing the impossible against Holland.
Yeah, they played fantastic. I mean, I really don't know if it was just fantastic or it was just like they just I don't know. It was such a weird game. It was really a weird game. It was fantastic in the way that we looked so composed and we looked like we deserved to be on that stage. Like it didn't look like uncomfortable for us in probably the first 2 quarters. You could see from quarter 3 it started getting a bit dicey a little bit, and obviously quarter 4 they took us by the scruff of the neck and sort of finished the game. But it just shows you that there's enough talent in that men's squad around that, a little bit more investment, a little bit more, time, actually getting them higher in the pro league, what they can actually produce on a consistent basis. But I can tell you one thing that that scared the living bejesus out of the Dutch here, and because especially with they are expected to bring back a medal, like gold or silver, but literally gold, and losing to Belgium in the first game, there it was. Let me tell you, that would have been a bit of a squeaky bum time for them as well. They would have been a bit panicked.
Yeah, I must say I agree with you in terms of South Africa looking. I mean, Holland weren't the best in the first two quarters, especially. But oftentimes you see from a South African point of view, and it happens in the football as well, is we get the opportunities and we don't take them. And I thought yesterday they were really good. I mean, they took the first opportunity, like 2 minutes into the game. Very, very difficult finish that from Kasim. And that just kind of set the tone. But I did think as the game progressed, it was always going to be difficult to keep that up.
Yeah, I think a big thing. Sorry, Cooks. A big thing is with Dayan missing the 1-on-1. I think that changes momentum as well. He scores that 1v1, and I promise you, there's another wave of momentum that happens. And
yeah, I must say, I still said on Twitter, like, I mean, Keegan, you and I know I don't know Dayan personally, but we know of him, and we've seen plenty of his hockey in Cape Town since he was a schoolboy. And
I've coached enough against him to know what he can produce.
You've seen it the hard way, Keeks.
And
you've seen it face to face.
I would have bet my house on him.
If he's playing against my team, he scores that 100 times out of 100 times. So
I think it's
yeah.
Watching that game yesterday as a hockey neutral. I mean, hockey not as someone who plays it but still doesn't understand the rules. I thought Wally hit the nail on the head there when he said, if you score that 1-on-1, goes to 4-3, it's a whole different game. The belief comes back. The Dutch go, geez, we've just crawled away back into this game. Now we're back again in the trenches. But the more I watched it, the more I actually got. You look back. I mean, a couple of months ago, these guys were having GoFundMe accounts to have to go to the Olympics. I mean, these also to have campaigns just to go and represent the country in the biggest stage in the world, and it's frustrating to think, like, how do they not get the backing and the financial backing, and they should keep getting this backing, because look what they produce off this, almost like the scraps that they had to produce and just to get them there. Whereas, like, obviously the Dutch, I mean, Kings, the backing that's there, the financial backing. I mean, the guards, they do, and for us to show that we can actually compete at that level, and not just compete. And I mean, like I said, the first half we were unbelievable in that first half, and then now
I think what one thing, Cooks, is, and you've just hit the nail on the head, is like, not just compete. South Africa produces natural athletes back home. We produce natural athletes back home. It's not a natural thing here. And I see it every day. Like, these kids don't grow up playing sport in the street and playing sport in the parks like we all did as growing up. Whether we all come from different backgrounds and that, like, we all did that though. So you sort of become a bit of a natural sportsman in a way. They're not it here. So they train it into them in a way. And it just shows you, like you said, like, we can compete. We can hell of a compete in any sport probably in the world if we just decide to put a little bit of time and effort into it. And that's the part we need.
I think the Kasim brothers are perfect examples of that, of what we can achieve if players are given, not special treatment, but proper treatment and proper training. I mean, they started off at Central, ended up at Bishops. Obviously, at Bishops, you're getting proper training, proper coaching, and whatever. And now they're two of the brightest young talents, not just in South Africa, but in the world. And if we can get that sort of thing, going throughout our hockey system, I mean, we're gonna we could dominate.
I just hope with the Olympics that we get the Oaks, like the Kasim brothers, they get noticed and get to go play in these big leagues, in these pro leagues, and get that
They
exposure.
definitely will.
Yeah, and get that exposure. So at least we have guys playing in those leagues, getting that week in, week out, playing massive hockey, and not having to work in the day and then go be a national athlete in the Olympian in the evening. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like that's what I hope that will come out of these Olympics. So for sponsors and businesses and people that are backing, because like you said, like I mean, like I always find it funny because I mean I work at school, the school environment. You go watch hockey on a Friday night. There's 4,000, 3,000 people there watching the big games. And you think to yourself, like, man, like we have the players, we have the talent. It's just now the next step after school. There's like there isn't that natural pathway that comes from obviously rugby is it's backed and things like that and cricket and sports. That's what I wish you could get for all us water polo, hockey, and things like that. So we can at least go to these Olympics and compete, go to World Cups and compete.
Yeah, they. So I could be mistaken, but I think I'm right. I think Dion has played a little bit in Belgium.
Yeah, I was
Already?
just going to say that
And,
he has played. I thought it might have been Germany, but I also could be wrong.
It could be Germany, but he's done a short stint away, so he's gotten the taste. But I can tell you now, those two brothers will be closely monitored around Europe, and I can tell you, their names have gone around the circles here already. I've heard their names come up here already. It might not be the big clubs, the top 3 here in the country, but definitely sides that are being promoted or fighting for or fighting relegation in, here. Their names have been thrown around already. And I think the best thing for them, players like them, is having a good showing at an Olympics on television where people can see them against the best teams. That is the biggest thing that they can do, is perform against the big teams. Like the two brothers did against them, we need them to perform now against the Germany, in the league or in the next game. And if they perform against those nations, they're going to get opportunities which a lot of other hockey players would never have gotten the opportunity. And they're lucky because they've got someone like Austin Smith with them in the camp, who's here in Den Bosch. He's the captain of Den Bosch here. He's been here for 10 years now, or somewhere close to 10 years. So he's got there's a lot of people that you can get a lot of them, those two brothers. They can get a lot from Austin. They got a few guys in the squad that play in Germany even as well. So hopefully it rubs off and, it's networking. So their name will get out there, and let's just hope that they also make the right choice for themselves. I think that's a big thing. South Africans, we're very comfortable by staying at home. And new adventures is very scary for us, especially moving out of the country. And a lot of the times in certain sports and certain things, I know football players especially, they tend to stay at home because they're idolized at home and they get paid enough and they don't take the adventures. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's a good story that comes out of it.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think that both of them have a future overseas, and we wish them all the luck in the world. Then we'll move on to the rugby, because I've got a feeling that we might need a lot of time for that.
Whoa. Before the rugby, did anyone watch the football against France?
Oh,
No.
I did. Oh man.
Kooks, do you want to have a go first?
It's heartbreaking. Obviously, it's like, it's, what I mean, at 3-2, you're thinking, oh man, like we're about to beat France again. 2010 vibes all over again. We're beating France, and then it's just it's just so close, it's so far. I mean, our defending was not great, just to put it mildly. And that's me putting it mildly. But then again, it's just frustrating because we put ourselves in those situations and then we lose it like that. And then now the worst part is we're back to doing the whole calculators out, or so that if we win the next game, like is it South Africa is it really a national tournament if it's a national tournament without us having to put on the calculators and support South Africa, and now you're going to support Mexico the next game? I was like, oh, you can't keep doing this to us.
Which calculator do we need? Do we need the scientific one, or can we use the standard one?
No, it's always the scientific one. It's always the scientific
big Casio. The big Casio.
Yeah.
The last time we used the classic one, we celebrated only to find out mid-celebration that we're not going to Brazil.
Well, let's hope that this time we make sure that exactly what needs to be done.
I just think that on a football, or just on the last touch on the football situation, I just find it so frustrating that it's the same shit every day. It's every time it's the same. It's these problems aren't something new. Like us defensively being vulnerable is not a new thing. It happens every tournament. Like every tournament, every qualifying campaign, whether you are under 19 or you're playing for the main side, it seems to be the same problem all the time. It's like it seems so deeply ingrained in our sport. And it's like, how the hell are we, like, first of all, are we even attempting to try and fix the situation? And second of all, what are we doing to try and fix it? Because whatever we're doing has not been working for how many years?
Look, I think we all know what we have been trying to do, and it's the same old thing as every time is get a new coach in, give him a couple of months, nothing's working, fire him, instead of going through the ranks and fixing it from the bottom to the top. And in my opinion, whether it be under 23 football or full team Bafana, we don't fix it, it's not going to work.
I think this thing about the under 23s is the coach lands in Tokyo and has a press conference and goes, I've had like 5 training sessions with these guys. We don't even know each other. Like,
yeah.
Well, there's a problem already.
And please, I'm not blaming him and I'm not blaming the players at all. I'm blaming the fucking structure. Like, how the hell did you send 18 guys over with a coach and they don't even know each other yet?
Yeah.
Like, how did we get to this situation?
No, it is frustrating because you look at other sides where, I mean, as the Spanish side has been together for a while preparing for the Olympics, and the only guys that don't say we haven't been in the squad are the guys coming from the Euros, like Pedri's and the Danny Almos. So they just get integrated in. I mean, I don't know. Like, my thing on these tournaments is I always feel bad because it's the same circle. It's go to a tournament, show promise, you know, and then it's, oh, we got to look after these youngsters. We got to protect these guys. And then they fall on the wayside. I mean, remember a couple of years ago when we came second in that 20 World Cup, and it's, we got to look after these youngsters. We got to make sure. And then out of that squad, you know, 1 or 2 end up playing for the national side, and things happen. But it's, something's got to change, and I hope that change is going to happen soon, because clearly these guys are talented. I mean, you look at the French side. I mean, it may not be household names, well, unless you count Andre Pierre Gignac, who's come out of the blue and just rock up and is playing for France again in 23. But like, those are guys that they're in the system, and you wouldn't be surprised in a couple of years' time. Oh, I remember this guy playing in the Olympics. Now he's playing for PSG in the Champions League final. He's playing in the main side. I mean, I still remember like in 2008 when Argentina won the Olympics. Messi was still a youngster. Angel Di Maria was playing in that side. I mean, those are 2 of the names, and guys like, you know, Romero, the keeper. All those guys get protected. They go through. Other countries do it well, like the Nigerias. They do it well. They do well in the Olympics. And you blink, these guys are doing well in the national side in 3-4 years' time. Whereas we produce the youngsters, and then in 5 years' time, this oaks now he can hardly get a game in the PSL. You're like, oh, what happened to this? So that's my biggest frustration with it.
Yeah, and you would think that it's a fairly logical process of getting these youngsters together for the Olympics. Make sure that you're well prepared, and you don't start a month before the Olympics. You get them well prepared, do a good job at the Olympics. I'm not saying we're out there to win it, but do a good job, and then you grow from there. Then you take that same squad and you move on to the African Championships and onto the World Cup, and you get them tournament ready as a group, and obviously one or two guys are, won't make it all the way to the top, and you'll get other guys that jump in along the way. But we can't sit with a situation that we have where if you look at the Bafana squad now and you look at the previous Olympics, you probably couldn't tell, or you probably couldn't find a player that played there.
All I ask is them to qualify. Just qualify. I'm so sick and tired. I'm so sick and tired of when the AFCON comes around and we're not in it. Like the World Cup comes around, not in it again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just qualify. What we're doing there is, I just want to watch Bafana because then, like I can't get into the AFCON when it's like, oh well, I'm not gonna support Ivory Coast, or because Bafana they're doing what I'm doing and watching the game from their house. So that's what I ask, just qualify. Or like, let's host the next World Cup. Let's do something again. Let's get the World Cup back so we can at least watch Bafana in the World Tournament again.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. That's I mean, it's criminal really that we can't qualify for AFCON.
If you look at our structures here, you look at our league here, we look at the structures, you look at the facilities here, it's actually unacceptable not to qualify for AFCON. Like, it should be held unacceptable in football in our country.
But it's not. It's become the norm, and we as a nation, we're not even expecting them to qualify. And when they don't qualify, we just go, oh fuck, but we told you, we knew this was going to happen.
That's how deep in the trenches we are, lads.
It's always something like we got to go beat Sudan. We're like we're playing Sudan here in South Africa. Just got to win the game, and somehow we go draw that game. We're like, come on, Oaks. Like Sierra Leone. Like, I understand if we get knocked out by these powerhouses of Africa, I can live with that. But it's like, come on, guys. Surely we can beat like Sudan and these sides to qualify. Like, that's all I ask for. I just want to watch AFCON and put my fun in it. That's all I ask.
No, but Cooks, then we go and play those island teams here in Africa, and we just go for vibes.
Yeah.
We go for sunbeds and catching a tan.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. Oh man.
So speaking of, I just realized it was all three of the major South African teams this weekend all had the lead and somehow bottled it. Getting over to the Springboks looked fairly.
Except the Proteas.
Sorry, except the Proteas. Yeah, sorry.
Well, they're struggling against the team the Dutch swept away in like T20 cricket. They blew them out.
Kings, we've got a T20 World Cup coming. Let's use the positives now. Let's not go down that path now. Let's just stick. They're doing well. Let's be stoked. Let's not let them have their time to shine. We'll get to them soon.
You got to start somewhere with your prep, right?
No, 100%. But yeah, onto the rugby.
So Springboks 12-3 going into the second half. I only watched with like one eye on this tiny little iPad, but I thought even according to the scoreline, we looked decent in the first half. And what do you guys reckon went wrong from there?
I mean, it's like the first half was good. I thought we played well in patches. I mean, I thought that we were able to dominate, and obviously we got everything we wanted. We were kicking well. We were physically we were dominating them up front, and then I thought going to halftime at 12-3, my biggest concern was we need to make sure we score first. We don't give the Lions a sniff, because I was worried with the box conditioning, just in terms of match fitness, like just in terms of like we might just fade away because we've not played rugby in so long. And then I think the Lions, they just grabbed that game with a scruff of the neck in the second half, in that first minute, and the momentum just shifted. Obviously the Boks they got a couple of opportunities, but all those opportunities came from scrappy moments. It wasn't chances created out of the way we were playing. So I mean the Boks do force opposition mistakes, but I thought the Lions, obviously they grabbed momentum and they ran with it the second half, and the more the game went on, the stronger that Lions side got. I do think I thought Trevor and Ox came off a little bit earlier. I mean, but in saying that, also normally Kitsy and France are stalwarts. And I do think I can't see Kitsy having two bad games in a row back to back or France. But yeah, I just think that second half, obviously, look, calls didn't go away. I mean, the yellow card was a tip tackle, was a definite yellow card, and it's just I understand. Well, what frustrated me the most was the fact that he didn't even go upstairs to get checked. But yeah, I mean, I would not want it to be Marius Jonker last week being the TMO in that game. But yeah, I think the Boks, there's a lot of things they can fix going into this weekend, and yeah, I think we're up for a classic this weekend. If the banter and the chirps that are happening on Monday, I think it's only going to build up come Saturday. But yeah, I think the Boks don't have too much to be worried about.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I think the first half, I think, was, I'm not going to say it was like sort of classic test rugby in a way, but it actually surprised me the first half because I thought we would be on the back foot a hell of a lot more. Actually, the entire game, I expected the Boks to be on the back foot a hell of a lot more. Before the series started, I called it 2-1, and I said the Lions would most likely win the first test, seeing that we would have two other tests up in the Highveld. Now, we don't have the Highveld anymore, but I'm not going to change it. I still always felt that with the lack of prep we have, it's probably a 2-1 game. I think for me, which is actually a bonus, is we didn't get blown out in the first game. It was so tight. I thought the first half we were in complete control. I never felt that the Lions, to be fair, the whole game, I didn't feel that the Lions were scaring us in a way. We got things wrong. That's what we did. I mean, I do totally agree with Jock. All the problems that were on the field, especially in that second half, is fixable. So discipline is fixable. You can fix your discipline and penalties you're giving away. There's certain, technical things you can fix. So I didn't look at the end of the game. It's disappointing, but I didn't leave the pub going, shit, how do we fix all of, how do we come back in the second game? You can almost pinpoint the areas that you can fix. If you're just better there, you give away 6 less penalties and you're a bit better there in that position. All of a sudden things start looking different. And I think that would be the big sort of takeout for Jock and Rassie and, the whole squad in the general. They didn't get blown. A team that played so little rugby, you kept it so close in the game. On any other day, there's some calls that definitely don't go the way they went on Saturday. People like to forget there's a massive steal on the try, pretty close to the try line from Mario Toji. It is a yellow card every day. You watch that 100 times out of 100, it's a yellow card. It's not a 50-50. It's not debatable. It's yellow. He's not supporting his body weight. He's playing over the ball. That's yellow. Now that can be.
He's stopping a try. I mean, that would have been a try if the ball goes out.
Exactly. Yeah, you know exactly what the Boks do in that. We kick for the line. We play the line out. We drive over. That's what we do in a situation like that. So there were some very, very key calls that I promise you, if that happens again, they get blown to completely different.
So do you guys feel that with some of the calls, you feel we win the game if the calls go the other way?
Not exactly, but I don't think it's as clear cut. Even though the game wasn't clear cut, I do think there's a lot that happens still in the game. To this day, the conclusion of the Willie being next to is not conclusional. The rule states it's got to be clear and obvious. There's no clear and obvious.
That's where they really needed. That's where they really needed VAR with their mathematicians and.
Well, Sky Rugby tried to do VAR today on Twitter, and then they draw the line from the wrong fucking place. They draw from the middle of the foot. The middle of the foot across the middle of the foot.
I saw some images of them drawing the lines, but the problem is I don't know the rules well enough to really comment on it. But I thought it was funny how they were drawing lines and whatever, like the football.
But if it is VAR, it's from the toe.
Yeah.
Toe to toe across the line.
Yeah.
Not from the middle of the fucking foot.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where I think the video try because the TMO because you're sitting there, like you said, it's one of those things that the referee asks you, try or no try. I mean, to give a try, I mean the rule does state it's got to be clear evidence that the try is scored. And you watch that one, because the TMO goes, because I was, I wasn't sure. I was like, do you have to be behind the player or behind the foot? Because it almost like Villiers was in front of but slightly behind his foot in one angle he was looking at, and I was like, oh, but if he passes it to him, it could probably be a forward pass, but it's a kick. So I understood for the TMO for not giving it, but it's like I think what Keeg said on the question is like, yes, the calls, maybe the game would have been different, but I don't think the Boks didn't lose because of the ref. It was one of those. Wasn't one of those games. It was one of those games where obviously those decisions that could have changed the game. But I think there's a lot that went on, especially that second half. I mean, like the Boks got bombarded in the aerial assault, and they would and it was one of those days the Boks couldn't catch a cold. Unfortunately, I mean, we weren't great under the high ball, especially that second half, and the momentum switched, and the Lions kept. Because I mean, the Lions switched into they basically outboxed the Boks. They got their bomb squad out in the second half. I thought their bench outplayed our bench.
Yeah, our bench was in all fairness, our bench probably was the biggest letdown of the entire game because they had no impact when they came on, especially the front row, which is
normally our biggest strength.
Yeah,
and that's our Boks used to blow in the World Cup that have. I mean, the Boks are basically playing with two starting forwards, and now the Lions came and sort of took that trick and outboxed the Boks. And even the way they played, spend more time kicking at us, and basically they used blueprint to try and hurt the Boks, and unfortunately we just didn't have an answer for it.
I think that's Kooks. Sorry, while Kooks is on that point, Kooks, don't you think that's also a lot of that non-impact is just lack of game time? Because if players are sharper when they, when they're in the mix, they're playing. You're playing a sport often, whether you're starting or you're coming off the bench. You're sharper in all aspects of your game, and I think that's where the Lions for me, that's where the Lions, who have played quite a few games now already, I think that's where their upper hand showed on us is when their bench players came on, they had game time. They had been in the mix a little bit, and really, were able to pick the momentum up in the game where we struggled a little bit with that.
100%. I think that was the big difference. And also, I mean, things like, Francois Helber normally is the starting prop, and now he's coming off the bench, something different. Whereas I totally understood what Jacques was trying to do with having Kitsy and France off the bench to try to get that momentum and to get stuck into the Lions prop in the second half. And I wouldn't be surprised this weekend if they do the opposite, where you're almost having Kitsy and France starting and then being able to throw on Trevor and Ox in the second half. Because I think Ox and Trevor answered a lot of doubt this weekend. They had going in the game. I thought they were really good. But the biggest thing is with the bench was sharpness. I mean, Francois Helber played one test and then he was part of the COVID crew. So he hasn't been training much. He doesn't have that match sharpness. I mean, we remember how well he was playing at the start of the year, how well he was coming for the Stormers. So we know what he's capable of. So my biggest thing is a lot of people, I think there's been a lot of overreaction, especially from the British side and talking up the Boks. I'm like, guys, you won by 5 points and the Boks weren't great. So just calm down. If the Lions won 35-10, then it'll be a different
story. Yeah, I would have been panicking then.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, it's 2017.
Look, one thing I will add is you almost can't blame them for being a little bit smug, because they have been through the wars on Twitter with South African fans in the build up to this. So I think that smugness we almost brought on ourselves a little bit.
But it's also We did, as you told us to, but geez, but now the thing is like with the British, and once you give them a sniff, they take it and run in terms of getting all these comments out and making sure the tweets are out, they're flying. And I saw a picture before I came on the show of Eben Etzebeth sitting in his room, and he's got pictures of Mario Toja in there. And I was sitting there, I was like, if there's anyone, I mean, Mario Toja was incredible on Saturday. I mean, he had a stormer, but I'm like, is there anyone who's you're gonna pick on at the moment? It's not. You don't not Eben Etzebeth. Like,
Yeah, the thing is, you don't want to piss him off with 2 games left.
That's the problem.
And
you don't poke a sleeping bear.
yeah, especially one that's playing good rugby.
So while we're on Twitter and social media, I've seen a couple of Rassi's tweets and that, and his some of his explanation videos, and I mean, for me, it's surely entertaining and it's great to see. So I was just wondering what you guys make of that, and whether or not you feel that is necessarily the type of thing that your director of rugby should be doing.
I'm not against it, because, I mean, you had a head coach crying about a TMO being selected for a game. I mean, like, you know, what is he really doing? He's just highlighting bad calls that were made in the game. He also didn't say we lost because of these calls, but he's saying, hey, look, you were complaining or crying about a TMO, or you crying about me being a water boy and not carrying water, actually, but get your guys to play, a bit of rugby and like in the right way. And, so I think the difference here is that he's not doing it in a personal attack on people. He's doing it very cleverly. Like he's throwing clips out and he's saying, you know what, we lost the game, but
yeah,
these contentious moments that you say aren't big. Look what this can result. There's a yellow card. There's another yellow card that wasn't given. He's throwing context out there saying, but that's a yellow card not given. That's a yellow card not given. That would have been 20 minutes of the Lions having to play with 14 guys, in a match. That changes things in rugby a big time. People forget that, that changes quite a bit in the game. And then he's saying, yeah, but we have an injured player and one of your players come up and picks him up off the ground while he's injured.
That was shocking.
He's highlighting facts that were missed, which people are trying to dismiss that didn't happen in the game. They're saying, oh, the Boks were quite rough around the rucks and, we were very argy-bargy. We said, but were we really argy-bargy? Look at the late hits happening after the passes. And there were a lot of late hits actually in the game. So I think it's more perspective that he's throwing out there. He hasn't once said that we've lost because of this. He's like, we weren't good enough. But before you start accusing us of things, let me just put this out there to the world and show you that, things could have been very different if these things were highlighted or seen.
Yeah. It's not as black and white as some people make it out to be.
Exactly.
No, 100%. And after you watch Chasing the Sun, for example, and you go behind the scenes, and one thing you see there, everything Rassis does is very calculated. There's nothing that the Boks do, and it's not well thought out, and it's well. And what I found interesting is, one of the big reasons you could see that with that burner account is, what I loved is the clip and the way the lines he used in the burner account to show some of the different highlights. It's the exact same analysis when the one he tweeted from his own personal one.
Yes, the same circles.
Because he used subtle things, because obviously I remember, you can see with the recording of the game, you hear, if you listen to watch it again, it's the refs. You hear the refs mark, because when you do analysis, the players don't get the broadcast TV version. They get the one with, obviously, they record on their own cameras. So you can actually hear the refs mark. You can hear the ref obviously talking, and you hear the calls being made on the field more clearly. So that's what I thought. So it's clearly it comes from someone in camp who has got access to that footage, because if you're recording it, from say if I go and go on YouTube the game and I record it, I'll hear the crowd noises that Super Sport had. But you can see there was no crowd noises. You hear the players calling the moves, and
it's
also,
inside. It's inside info.
Yeah, 100%. But I still said on Twitter, what I love is
give me the quick rundown on this burner account. We saying, do we know that Rassi's behind it, or is that what the Twitter streets are thinking, or what's it about?
Saying that they put 2 and 2 together and saying, listen, like, where's this burner account coming with all this analysis? And then obviously the first video he sent, Rassi commented as the director of rugby, his own one, commented on that account saying, oh, thank you, like, the game could have gone so much more differently if these cards happened. So he's playing up like, hey guys, it can't be me if I'm recording.
But the account
it only has a brand new account, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so the account
it's an old account. He's had since he was at Munster.
Yeah, so Squid Rugby brought it up. He's actually the one that caught it up, and we got to fucking Squid Rugby is a fucking genius, and he found that this is an account that Rassi used when he coached at Munster, when he wasn't happy with decisions. And then the account disappeared.
That would have been before he had his own Twitter, right? Because that only came recently.
Exactly. So he deactivated the account, obviously, when he left Munster. And there were dodgy... And then all of a sudden, the account reappears. And the account, Rassi only follows like 20 people. And one of the people Rassi follows is this account.
Yeah.
So he somehow managed to find his login details again.
So Squid is saying that, like, it's such a genius thing, this burner account, because he can drop like analysis, like Kook says, this great fucking analysis that he uses on his account. He can drop it on the burner account. He can retweet it off the burner account or reply to it, and then log out of it and not worry about it. And that just circulates through the news and causes more, retweets and banter.
And causes controversy. I mean, I had a tweet this morning. I mean, Keegs, you had Fergie for over 20 odd years, and Wally, we had peak Mourinho, and I was like, this is in the Fergie and Mourinho playbook,
Yes. 100%.
Big game. It's a big game coming up. Take all the pressure away from the players.
Yeah.
You sit there, talk about the referees the whole week, every article, every news. Oh, but Rusty's going on about this. So no one mentions Jacques Niehaber as much, and Niehaber and the box. They just stay in the corner.
Yeah.
You always go. Everyone's talking about Rusty and the decisions and stop whining. All of that anger. Because now, and like, I wouldn't be surprised to see that you don't even see Jacques at a press conference this week. You pop on and you probably and then you'll see Rusty at a press conference, and you'll be answering all these questions, and all it does is take that pressure off. And I think, and that's why I said everything that man does is calculated. He knows the backlash that's going to come from this. He knows what's going to. So it's not like he's just sitting at home angry and just like had some bottles of wine. He's like, I'm stuff this referee. So like I was telling them, like, this is peak. I can remember peak Jose Mourinho just going to a post-match conference saying, if I speak, I'm going to be in big trouble, or one of his rants.
That reminds me of Mourinho sneaking into the change room with in the laundry basket. That type of shit.
Or like, or the one at United under pressure, like respect. No one speaks about the formula that's in. They speak about him, about his dad.
Yeah.
No one worries about the black.
But also one thing's for sure is all over the world the other directors of rugby must be pissed because their job spec's going to change now, because they're going to need some, as part of your CV, you're going to need some social media skills as well,
and some water boy skills as well.
And water boy skills, that's not for everyone.
I think the one thing that us as South Africans, I think we understand, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the English, a lot of the Lions fans understand this as well. I mean, to be fair, like, we must also understand Rassi does have a lot of respect with a lot of the Lions supporters. Maybe not England specifically, but Irish fans are absolutely in love with Rassi. They love the work that he did at Munster. He's freaking ridiculously highly praised in Ireland, and a lot of people have a lot of respect for him. And I think what we understand as South Africans is this shithousery, as we're calling, that's going on right now. Here is he genuinely cares so much about South Africa and South African rugby. He's not going to do anything that will bring the game or bring the Springboks into disrepute. You know 100%. What I mean? Like, he is not that type of person. He's proud enough. He's a very proud guy, and and all of that, and we know that. But I don't think he would, throw things out there to throw a bad name, to throw like a dark cloud over the Springbok, brand or rugby or players or anyone like that. So, like Cook says, he's extremely calculated, and he is the Jose, the Alex Ferguson, of the rugby world. And he just knows how to deal with the media and play things up.
But also, Kings, you look at that as well. Like, a lot of people, they speak about Rassie. I mean, most coaches do this. I mean, last week, Warren Gatland, I mean, he doesn't go out and say it. It's like reports go, Gatland is fuming about the decision about getting us the African TMO. That's also shithousery, because you planted a seed of doubt in TMOs. So that's a talking point. Everyone is going on about this point, saying, "Oh, guys, but what about the TMO this weekend? If he makes a bad call, he's leaning towards the Africa. But if he doesn't make a bad call, there's Springboks. Now he's trying to overcompensate." So it's all of that, where all these coaches do it. And what I love the most is, I think that it just increases the profile of the series. I love it. There's no fans at the stadium, so we kind of have to get our entertainment now.
It's almost like they're trying to sell a pay-per-view event.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. I mean, no fans, you don't have that era, so you don't have that sort of element of the game. So you need to find something else. And I mean, to be fair, Rassie's probably the best person to have in the situation. It's just a pity that Eddie is not the coach that he's doing it against, because I think there would have been even more fireworks with Eddie Jones and Rassie, and I think that would have been even more electric.
100%.
Sort of thing. But I mean, Gatland did this in New Zealand. People mustn't forget, and a lot of South Africans probably wouldn't have watched a lot of it and that, but build up stuff. But Gatland did exactly this in New Zealand. He tried the same tricks with with Hansen. He did the same thing about referees. He tried to get Hansen to talk when Hansen was coaching them. He tried to get Hansen to say things that he wouldn't normally say. And
I mean, there's even those rumors about the Lions recording All Black sessions.
Exactly.
All those little things.
So all these things, like, this is a typical Warren Gatland is just as much shithousery as what Rassie's busy doing right now. The difference is Rassie is just a little bit more tech savvy in a way, and he's using his social platform to get more shit out there.
Yeah.
But also to protect his players.
But to protect his players,
I think that's the biggest one, because if you look at this week, I mean, one thing that's I mean, it's Jacques Nienaber's first gig as a head coach. I mean, this is the first series he's had. So, as Springbok fans, it's coaches. If you don't do well, the fans are on the coach's case. But and you can see that Rassie, I mean, they're best mates. So, if whatever Rassie's doing, Jacques is definitely aware what he's doing. So he's using that to shield the players from because the big debate today, the whole day, has been Rassie Erasmus and Jaco Johan, this burner account. Obviously, people still talking about what the Boks need to improve on, but he shielded the players. The brunt of this week, the bulk of this week, is going to be spoken about this burner account, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Rassie throwing out, a few more things here and there.
But on a Friday night, Jaco Johan comes out again with another little quick video on a Friday night. Just to throw things around. But I agree with you, Cook. So, I think at the end of the day, we need to understand that as well, that the Springbok job is a high-profile thing, and coaches get hired and fired on results. And Jock has had one test match with the Springboks, which was against Georgia. He's into a massive series against the Lions. you know what the nice thing this whole week has been? Not a single bad word of the South African public on Jock at this point in time.
Yeah.
And we could all see as Springbok fans, yes, it didn't go away. We weren't sharp as we would expect. Well, we didn't know what to expect because we hadn't played rugby. So, but we looked at it and we're like, we had a game plan. No South African, I walked out here in Amsterdam in a pub and it was filled with South African. We were 3 pubs full of South Africans here. Not one person did I hear go past be like, oh, we looked fucking clueless. We didn't look like we wanted to know, like we were doing something. We didn't look like we had a game plan. No one said that. It was very clear what we were doing, what we tried to do. Yes, execution wasn't there on the day, and we ran out of steam because we haven't played rugby. So, but it could be a lot worse, like Cook said earlier, if we lost 35-10 or whatever, or 15 or whatever. I mean, I think I would have been shitting myself right now.
Yeah. I think it feels like it's almost just a whole bunch of small unfortunate events that led to a bad result. Not necessarily a bad result, but a loss. And the chances of that all of those things happening again is probably quite slim.
Yeah, we could. It could be the same game for the second test, but we get the calls. Then it's the same thing. Yeah. Or it could be, it's such a tight. The margin was so tight on Saturday. It was a typical test match, and I think we can only hope that the next 3 games or next 2 games are like that, and just hope that we have to win the next one to make the third one a little exciting.
Yeah,
100%.
All right, boys. Before we wrap it up, I want you guys to each give me three key points or areas where we need to improve on, or things that need to happen in order for us to win the next game.
I think the big one is we know the Lions are going to have a big aerial assault this week, and I think obviously we get better at catching the high balls. I don't think the Boks will make too many changes this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if they name the same side. Obviously, maybe just adjust the bench, go back to a 6-2 split, or maybe even bring Lord back in, or get Jasper Visa bench. I think that might be the only changes, or maybe mix up the front row. But I wouldn't be surprised if we name the same side. But I do think I think the big 3 thing is the bench has got to step up this week, and I think our bomb squad is going to step up massively, just get better catching the high balls, and then and also just make sure that we don't let the Lions get into any form of momentum. I do think the Boks, this on Saturday reminded me that first game in the World Cup against the All Blacks, we shot patches of what we could do, and then obviously we could see those slight weaknesses, and then obviously the Boks found a way to tailor that and to get better into that. So I think it's not all doom and gloom. I think it's, like I said, all those things are fixable. If our biggest thing for me, my number one is our bench has got to do well. If our bench does well, Boks are A for a win.
Yeah, I think for me it would be, I think for this week, what I would like to see is obviously better under the high ball. That's a non-negotiable, and I think Cooks hit the nail on the head there. We've got to be better there. I think we've got to up our physicality this week. I think we weren't bad in the first test, but I think we need to get a bit brutal. We really need to up the physicality for this test match, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Jasper Visa starting at 8 at this week. I think that is still, we weren't physically bullied, we weren't physically manhandled. I actually think for a team that they spoke themselves up as being physically ready, I don't think they really showed that much on that point of view. 1 or 2 players showed that they were up for it. Utoji, and we know he's world class. Courtney Laws is world class. So we know that they're great players and they're always going to be up for it. But I think we need to up there, and our set pieces need to be rock solid. I think those are the 3 things I would go into it. We need to have a Springbok pack dominating scrums. Like, Not hitting well, but brutally dominating, and lineouts, the dry, especially the mauls. I don't think we were that sharp on mauls on Saturday. If we can get better there, I think those set pieces will be okay.
I must echo before when it closes up there. I just like to add there and say, I really agree with you on the physicality point, and to the point where I think this weekend's game is going to be one of the most physical test matches we'll see in a very long time. I think the Lions are going to step it up again because they'll know the Boks need to obviously to bounce back here, and the Boks are going to rev it up. So come this time next week Monday, there's going to be bodies hurting. There's going to be hurting.
And Cooks, you and I will have a different kind of body sore now that at least we can buy some beers for the game.
Definitely. Some beers and kicks you saw. My boyfriend could be in the running, so it's been a good 2 days for me.
If Finn makes anything close to the bench, Cooks is going wild on Saturday. Absolutely wild.
Guys, all I'm saying is those let Finn cook hashtags on Twitter. It's Finn Ruster using it as his burner account. Getting the trend going.
Okay, quick. Last quick thing before we go. Just a score prediction for next week's game or this week's game.
Oof. I think Boks win 19-16. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be speed bump time this weekend.
I'm going to say 23. Let's say 23-18 or 23-19, around there.
Cool. There you have it. I'll put a bet on both of those scores and let's see what happens. Gents, thank you so much.
Cheers, lads.
It's been a good one, and enjoy the Olympics, enjoy the rugby, obviously, and enjoy the Formula One that's back next week. And again on Monday.
Yep, catch up on Monday.
Cheers, fellas. Cheers, everyone.
Cool.